Well, thank you, Jordan, for coming on the show. Appreciate you being here today. Would you mind giving a little intro to yourself and telling everyone a little bit about Super Coffee?
Absolutely, brother. And thank you so much for having me on. This is exciting. Again, we're big fans of RX Bar and yourself. And then I know you enjoy Super Coffee products every now and again. So
Absolutely.
this is exciting for us. And yeah, I'm the youngest brother of three of the co-founders of Super Coffee. It started in my dorm room, actually, when I was a 19-year-old freshman. Played basketball at Philadelphia University in Philadelphia. And the story goes, I was falling asleep in class. We would have 5 a.m. practices every day, and it was just draining, man. And we couldn't, I couldn't figure out why there wasn't healthier energy drink options, but specifically bottled coffee, because I loved coffee, and obviously it's a massive category. It's the third most popular beverage in the world. So why, when all of a sudden it was a ready to drink product, all standards went out the window, and you had to kind of suffer for something that was just loaded with cream and sugar. So just started as trying to solve that problem for myself, and realized, very early on, because I was studying business at the time, that there was a market opportunity for it, and started to run some simple, very simple, basic business models, which, I'm sure we'll get into, of just like, okay, here's the market size, total addressable market. Here's who controls, here's who controls the market. Here's how we can differentiate and maybe find a little niche for ourselves. So that's how the idea came about. And then called my 2 older brothers. Jake is the middle brother. He was playing football at Georgetown at the time. Jim was my oldest brother. He had just graduated from Colgate and was working in New York in finance. And I was like, hey, they're just, 2 years and 3 years older than me. So we've always had a really tight relationship. And I said, I'm going to forfeit my scholarship, my basketball scholarship. After my freshman year, I'm going to drop out. I'm going to start this company because it's something that I'm super passionate about and really believe in. But I need you guys to join me. So I was able to convince them to join, and that's how we got started. And that was 2016.
Wow. Wow. That's quite, yeah, I knew some of that. That's, how did you, I would love to just jump in the beginning there. How did you, like, what was the process of looking for a healthier option? And then once you determined there wasn't a healthier option, what was kind of the process that you went through to start testing? And do you
Sure.
remember like the first super coffee batch you made in that whole
Yeah.
process?
Oh, of course. Of course. Feels like yesterday, honestly. So again, I will say, just a reminder, you have to think about context of, who we were as athletes and where we were. I was based in Philadelphia, but we grew up in New York. So we were exposed always to like the greatest trends, and we were surrounded by great brands. So we were always looking for those healthier options. So to your point, it's not like I was in the middle of the country and stuck to just like, a couple of Walmarts and places where, you expect
Sure.
Starbucks and energy drinks to dominate. Like, I was expecting to find something healthy and nutritious. And when I couldn't find it in my school stores or anywhere really remotely near campus, I even walked to the Whole Foods, right? You have access to
Yeah.
Whole Foods in Philadelphia. So, but even there, you had 2 options. They were actually selling, they were starting to see some plant-based options on the shelf obviously emerge, but still loaded with sugar and really didn't taste that good. And then 2016 was really the emergence of cold brew coffee, ready to drink, brands like Chameleon. But,
Hmm.
that's third wave coffee, $4.99, $5.99, really
Yeah.
strong. Like, for a college kid, that doesn't really appeal to me, and I couldn't really afford it either. So
Right.
wasn't really a viable option. So that's kind of where I was like, wow, if I can't find a healthy option in my everyday life, and I can't even find one at Whole Foods, like, there actually is a real opportunity here. But what does that now look like? And just by talking to my friends and being honest with myself, it's like, look, I actually like the taste of Starbucks Frappuccinos. I mean, like, they do $2.5 billion a year in revenue for a reason. They taste absolutely delicious, in
Right.
some aspects. Now, at that time, look, now it's kind of like, sickly sweet and artificial tasting. But um, so it was obvious that we needed a product that tasted really great, needed a product that delivered on the nutritional benefits that we wanted. And at that time, I was really going into keto. I didn't really call it keto, but it was zero sugar. A lot of athletes were talking about it. Um, Protein, obviously, always a big part of our diet, especially when we're moving, but we didn't want it to be a protein shake. We wanted it to be a coffee first that used protein to give it its creaminess versus, like, you know, artificial creamer or half and half or something like that.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's where the 10 grams of protein really came into play. And then MCT oil was just making its way onto the scene for energy support, metabolism support. And we started adding that. And we were like, look, if we can make this thing taste great, be nutritious, and instead of being $4.99, let's make it $2.99 so it can compete directly with Starbucks. So
Mm.
those were the 3 boxes that we wanted to check. And then obviously just creating a brand that was meaningful to us, and what we wanted to put out into the world, which is always, I think, super important, which I'm sure we'll talk more about. So that was the initial logic behind the the MVP product, the minimum viable product that we put out. And from there, it was just really learning the hard way, rolling up our sleeves. We had a small micro manufacturer, almost like a culinary kitchen in the Washington, D.C. area. Because when I dropped out that summer after my freshman year, I moved in with my brother Jake, who's at Georgetown still. He was in his senior year, and we just needed a place to put the liquid into bottles, which I never realized how difficult that would be. But the first batch, it was just like, I think every batch we ran a batch every like 2 weeks, just like a couple thousand bottles. And every batch was different. It was like, what different sweet, that was the benefit of doing that. And the Whole Foods Market had their local program that we were able to get in. We started with 1 store.
Oh, wow.
And we were like, yeah, we're just going to become the best selling bottled coffee in this Whole Foods, right, in Washington, D.C., in Georgetown, actually. So just right up the street from where Jake was, where we were living. And we basically said, like, look, we're just going to make product, give it to every single person on Georgetown's campus, get feedback from them, sell it at Whole Foods so we can get some revenue and proof of concept going for, because we knew we were going to need to raise money. And from there, again, every batch we improved the packaging, the bottle shape. We played with, obviously, the different levels of sweetness, different flavor profiles. We actually were doing it the right way when we honestly didn't realize it.
Okay. Yeah.
We're more doers than thinkers or planners. But we were doing it the right way. We kind of taking our time. We were obviously wanting to move quickly, but definitely took time to figure out the product first.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting to hear. I've heard this from a few people I've interviewed recently on that conversation. Do you remember the conversation, like telling your parents and your brothers that you were going to drop out and do this full time? And how did that go? Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah, so it was August of that summer. So it was the end of that summer, and Jake and I were in the Georgetown Summer Launch Program. So Georgetown Business School has a great program where they're just helping out. So we had a concept, we had an MVP, and I'm getting ready to go back for my sophomore year, right? So like nobody's thinking that you're dropping out after your freshman year, especially when you're like full scholarship, expected to be an all-conference player
Yeah,
going
right.
year. Like everybody's thinking, all right, Jordan's about to get ready to have a great season, and Jake's getting ready to finish up his senior season at Georgetown football. We were actually on a trip to California for our cousin's wedding, and again, end of the summer, like this is my last week of summer basically. Then I go back, and on the last day of the trip, I'm wrapping up like my summer thesis for the program, and the idea that Jake and I were thinking is I was going to go back to Philly, and we were going to start selling in Philly Whole Foods, and I would manage that, and he would manage, the Georgetown store, and we had no employees, so it was like, wait a minute. You're going to be a Division I full-time college student athlete in your senior year, and I'm going to be a Division II full-time college student athlete. And we think that we're going to continue. We were basically working 15 to 20 hours a day that whole summer.
Oh, wow.
So, and we were, couple $1,000s a week in sales. And so logically, I was just like, there's just no way it's going to work. It's just going to be too hard. The company's naturally going to dissolve. And the worst part about that is that Jake in his senior year would then have to make a tough decision at the end of that year to say, okay, do I actually want to now restart the company, or am I going to, with my Georgetown degree, just go work on Wall Street and make $100K as a first year out?
Yeah.
Pretty easy decision, I thought. So I decided, hey, I can't go back. We believe in this. We have traction. We felt like we were doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but it was working. So I just told my parents, look, I can't go back. And they thought, my mom was really scared. She was extremely scared. My dad was really upset. So like mixed emotions for sure. But when they realized I was serious about it, they've always been so supportive. They've always kind of led us, raised us to, think for ourselves and take risks. Obviously like basketball, and sports kind of put us in the position to do that. But So they got comfortable. I mean, I shouldn't say comfortable, but they were okay with me doing it. And they supported us any way they could. We don't come from money. My mom was, she worked at the YMCA, and my dad was a retired engineer. So we, just kind of bootstrapped it and went with it, and they been supporting us ever since.
I love that story. No, it's 'cause it's so interesting. Like, it seems like in a lot of people's, there's like always an inflection point, a decision to be made somewhere along the line, right? And it's not, obviously, most of the time, it's not going to be easy, but
Yeah,
it's interesting to hear you just kind of decided last second to do it and run with it. Yeah, and I can only imagine, like, once you get your foot in the door at one Whole Foods, and then if it dissolved, like the opportunity to go back, I'm sure they're not going to. The chances there would be an uphill battle to try to get back into a Whole Foods after kind of
totally.
dissolving your company,
No, exactly. Yeah, it was like, I mean, who knew, right? I mean, like all we knew is that if I went back to school, Jake went back to school, we would be in a really bad spot company wise. So
Sure. Yeah.
willing to take the risk. So after that conversation with my parents, I called my coach. He was not very happy about the decision, but then went back straight to DC. Didn't have to worry about going back up to Philly, and we got to work.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Did you what was I gonna say? How did you, like, when you were thinking through, I want a healthier, simple ingredient coffee, and you're looking around and you said you're going to Whole Foods, you're not seeing it. And this might be a dumb question, but why do you think none of the major coffee players tried to come out with something healthier? This is a question I like to ask people in our industry, is like, why do you think the big guys didn't try to do this?
Yeah, well, I think when you looked at the big guys in the space, there wasn't really a lot, and Starbucks being the biggest and still controls the category. And it's just not, and it's never been in their DNA ever as a brand to make a healthy product. It's just not
Sure.
why they exist, right?
Yeah.
Especially in bottled drinks. Like when they initially launched ready to drink with Pepsi, they actually started with like a sparkling coffee Cascara, which
Oh,
not a lot of people realize, and it
I didn't know
failed.
that.
Yeah, and it failed in the 90s. And then finally, they were like, "Hey, we just need to take our most popular item from the store and put it into a bottle." And that was the Frappuccino in the late 90s. um, you know, 50 grams of sugar, 290 calories, the thing that's still on the shelf today. And it
Yeah.
worked so well for them, right? $1 billion in revenue after the first 5 years and
Oh,
continued
did
to
it do that much? I didn't realize that. I
Oh, yeah.
remember I remember getting those as a kid too and just loving them
Yeah.
because they're so high in sugar.
No, it took off. I mean, by like 2005, it was just like, and it's still in a league of its own. Like it still is. So that right there is just all about the DNA, right? Big brands
Sure.
never focused on health and wellness. They didn't have to, they didn't need to. It wasn't a thought for their consumer. It's not who they were talking to. So for them to all of a sudden say, "Hey, we want to go put out something healthy," it's like, what does that mean for them, right? Like we can't just go against our entire brand here just for like, the small bottled, healthy bottled coffee market.
Right.
Stick to what's working, what's true for us, and all the systems. And again, internally at big companies, they struggle to innovate as well because they're afraid of failing. Nobody wants to take the risk because it's not like the CEO or the founder, like myself, right, is putting their job on the line to make that call.
Right.
It's like a mid-level manager who doesn't really care. um,
Yeah.
and he's going to put his job on the line to challenge, the VP of uh, whether it be M&A or just innovation in general at a company like that. Like, so when you dig a little bit, so from a high level, it's not a part of their DNA, but when you dig deeper into, the corporate bureaucracy that goes on, you're just not going to have somebody within that company willing to step up. And obviously, sometimes you do, like big companies do figure it out, but it's just going to be really tough to break through. And then the same thing, even when you look at the other companies who are in the space, they all followed Starbucks, so they
Yeah.
were all in the same boat. So when Coke launched the Dunkin' product, just a few years ago, they just tried to replicate the Frappuccino. It actually has more sugar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's really, really failing right now. But it came out of the gates hot because they had so much distribution. They got everything they wanted and needed, the brand recognition, etc. But now it's starting to go downhill. But it's still a good part. They're still a number two brand. And then right now we're the number three brand in the country, so we're not too far behind Dunkin', but there is still a big gap between us and where Starbucks bottled drinks are.
That's incredible though. I mean, I've been following your guys' story for a while. And how has it been? Has there been challenges? I'm sure there always is, but it seems like you guys have just been unlocking distribution, and
Mhm.
growing across the country. And it seems like every place I'm at, I'd notice you guys more and more now than I ever have.
Yeah, there's always challenges. I think across all departments in the business too, right? It's not like just the big ones, but the two things that you need to get right are the product and the people. And the product is so tough because we don't own our own manufacturing. We're a smaller company trying to get in with the big guys, and as you guys probably know, like consumer packaged goods, the contract manufacturers, they've been doing things the same way for 50 years. Like they haven't made products with MCT oil and zero sugar. Like they haven't used monk fruit before.
Right.
They don't even know what monk fruit. Some of the conversations I was having early on, people looked at me like I had two heads, and I'm like, guys, I'm just saying I can't use sugar, like, or an artificial ingredient, but they never heard of that before. So we've probably improved our formula 50 to 100 times. We actually just went through another reformulation
Oh, wow.
because we're constantly, because then that's the other side of it, is like not just do we have to be there nutritionally, but taste wise we have to keep improving. So looking for different, as monk fruit becomes more ubiquitous, how do you make that flavor profile really taste like sugar versus monk fruit? So that's a challenge we're constantly facing as well. So product was the first thing that always trying to improve quality. We went from producing 40,000 cases a year um, to close to 4 million cases in
Wow.
less than 2 years. How do you scale that quality that quickly? And there's been tons of issues. Like we've had protein fallout. Like there was a point in time where you couldn't drink a bottle of super coffee without getting an inch of sludge in the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just because of the processing. Like, and again, we don't use anything artificial. So
Yeah.
like we
Right.
didn't realize that early on. So we had to tweak what types of proteins and MCT oils and things like that we were using. So product challenges are the big one, and then people challenges too. While we scaled, obviously the our sales grew, our team grew. The last 2 years we grew from 12 full time to 90 full time right now. And then we also have an incredible, instead of doing outsourced brand ambassador programs, we actually built our own internally. So
Oh,
we have
nice.
had about 150 part-time people as well that we train and get out into the field pushing the product. So it's a big team that grew fast, and the HR side of it is very real. I've learned the hard way. I used to, a couple of old wise businessmen used to tell me that HR was the most important part of a company, and that when we were at like 5 people, I was like, "There's just no way. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me." But now you realize it when you have 90 full time, how important HR is, because the people issues never stop, and they're your most important asset. So how do you
Right.
keep people happy, motivated, paid? And then the ambitious people, they have issues too because they want a promotion. They want to keep growing. And it's like there's only so many levels and layers when you're $100 million company.
Right.
If we were a $5 billion company, then maybe we could flex a little bit more for you. But so there's always that balance too of figuring out getting the right people in the right roles, keeping them incentivized and motivated, and then obviously continuing to deliver the best products at the best time. So those are the two biggest hurdles that I spend most of my time on, is product and people. And then from there, I think there's just the unforeseen challenges too of like what's going on in the market, right?
Right.
The impact of the pandemic, raising capital, which thankfully Jim, the oldest brother, leads the charge on raising capital, but it's always a challenge too. It's like, how do you convince an investor that your valuation is what you say it is,
Hmm.
as a 3-year-old company removed from the dorm room?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
These are all the things that we wrestle with, but we've been able to raise a lot of capital at fair valuations for us, and been able to maintain and improve the product and also grow our team with awesome people. So far we've those have been the key to our success, being able to access the capital and resources, produce great differentiated products, and just attract great talent and keep them happy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I know the people thing at RX. I didn't fully understand the power of that. I think partially because I spent so much time in big corporate America at two, Fortune 200 companies before that. So I mean, you're just in a big pool of people, and it's when you come to a smaller company, and I don't know what it is. I feel like with food, I don't know why. I feel like there's even a bigger connection because you have the product in your hand, you're sharing it with people. I don't know. I agree. I feel like the people side of things at a smaller company becomes ever important. Um, I do think it's interesting. I would love to dive into what you just hit on because there's a few things I thought were interesting when I know a lot about you guys and have done my own research. But the rate the bootstrapping to then deciding to raise capital, and you guys just went through some awesome steps to that, and that all became public recently. So congratulations on that. That's
Thank
exciting.
you. Thanks, buddy.
Um, and then you guys were on Shark Tank a while ago and tried
Yes.
to get
Yeah.
funding that way. So would you mind kind of walking through for this podcast? This is like a perfect topic, is like how did you guys obviously bootstrap because you were in your dorm room trying to
Yes.
make it work yourself? Can you kind of explain the process that you guys went through to go from, we're just going to keep bootstrapping this, to then kind of the light bulb moment of like, we need to raise capital to hit the next phase, and why, and just like your overall thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally. And dude, definitely feel free to interrupt with questions. So much has happened in a 5-year period that like
Right.
I forgot to even mention Shark Tank. So
Yeah,
that was
I know.
so definitely feel free to.
That goes to show how fast you guys have been growing, and there's so
No,
much going on.
yeah, ton going on. So yeah, I think the bootstrapping thing is super important and valuable for any company or founder and entrepreneur, because for the majority of people, that's how you have to get going, especially when you're a 19-year-old or just a young first timer. We didn't come from money, very limited resources. Me personally, I was always focused on basketball. So as a 19-year-old, I didn't have a lot of savings either. I had a couple $1,000s in my bank from like the odd jobs I worked for the
Sure.
summer up
Yeah.
to college. So all of that money initially went into any research, buying ingredients, travel back and forth to DC early on. But basically, the goal was to leverage our own couple $1,000s to create that minimum viable product, which is like the first worst version you could introduce to the market. And the goal of that was just to prove the concept was viable in any sort of way, get traction in any sort of way. So the first piece of that for us was, okay, how can we get into a retailer that has a great reputation where we can actually show that the product's going to sell well?
Okay.
Uh,
Right.
and thankfully, Whole Foods was still doing their local program. And I don't know if Whole Foods realized how important that is for small brands, because I don't think they're doing it now, with Amazon leading the charge. But it's almost like an incubator. And for us, that allowed us to get into one store, right? Because we didn't have inventory, we had no capital, so we could produce a really small amount of product without draining ourselves. Go into one store, and again, our goal was to become the number one bottled coffee in that Whole Foods. And then once we did that, we'd go up the street to the next Whole Foods and we'd say, hey, look at our data from this store. Can you take us in? And then do the same thing. And we had enough capital. To do that for about 5 stores, which we
Okay.
projected was about 3 months. So like you talk about the smallest sample size and the smallest time period before you needed to raise money, but we did it that summer. And that's exactly what we did. We executed. We were the number one coffee in those 5 stores.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and when you can say that, hey, we're the number one coffee in 5 Whole Foods,
That's
and
huge.
exactly, and kind of paint that picture of here's what we're doing and here's what we're going to continue to do, and then here's how we're going to do that, right? That's where the business plan comes into play, but it becomes a lot more real. It's not just like 3 college kids saying that they're starting this great company. So with that very small proof of concept, we actually did friends and family first, of course. So friends and family round was $60,000, and that would give us, another 3 to 6 months of runway of doing the same thing, scaling. And we were able to raise it from 2 of our aunts who just took the risk on us. They're like just the nicest, kindest people ever, and they're
Wow.
still, yeah, there are two
Early
aunts.
investors.
Yeah, friends and family, exactly. They got in, I think, at a million valuation, so they've done pretty well.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. That's
On that,
awesome.
which is cool. And so we got $60,000 from them, and then they even had some of their friends. And this was what's cool when you bootstrap, is like you don't care where the money comes from or how big the check is. We were
Sure.
collecting like $2,500 checks, $5,000 checks, like every other day. So we ended up raising like $90,000 from that small friends and family round, and then we were able to get in, really make not a real impact, but 15 stores of top 3 coffee in every store of Whole Foods.
Wow.
But again, people's perception of Whole Foods is so great. It's like, wow, if you're number 3 in these 15 stores in a high profile area like DC, then of course you guys can expand, right? Of course you can keep this going.
Definitely.
and a lot of, we call it, not, it's like friends, family, and fools money early on because they don't know CPG. So we're not asking like, but
They're probably
this
going
whole,
off of just knowing you guys and then the
yeah,
word of
knowing
mouth from
us,
your aunts.
getting those highlights too. Like, hey, we were in
Yeah.
2 stores last month. Now we're in 4, and we're still the best seller. Now we're next month we're going to be in 8. So you can paint that picture really clearly
Did
without.
you guys have like a sell deck, like a some sort of sell deck early on for friends and family?
Yeah, we did like a little business plan. It's
Yeah.
funny. It was actually January or June 25th was our 5th year anniversary.
Oh wow. There you go. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So everybody, we actually, today's a company holiday. Everybody is
There you
off.
Oh, nice. There you go.
But we circulated the first business plan actually to everybody that I drafted up. It was a horrible piece of work, but it was cool because the vision and the values were there from day one,
Yeah.
and that's what we were selling people on. More so was that.
I think it's
Um,
so cool to look back at that stuff. I mean, that's like Peter and Jared's first RX bar wrapper was made in PowerPoint, and we
yeah,
have that like in the
same,
office still. It's
same.
like you got to remember that.
Yeah. So once we got that $90,000, we kept executing on the plan, but we were burning cash.
Sure.
Um, and we realized, okay, now we need to go a little bit bigger. And funny enough, though, this is, talk about how luck plays a role or creating your own luck. We like to say kind of, the luck only comes if you're out there getting it done. So we were producing the product ourselves. We were making our own deliveries to the Whole Food stores. We didn't have a distributor. We weren't with Unified, KE, or anybody.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So we were
Okay.
making our own deliveries. And then we were going back to do demos ourselves on the weekends.
Which this is just the two of you at this point?
And Jim had joined, so
Okay.
3. So now it's the 3 brothers. So we were working our asses off
Oh, I
basically.
bet. Yeah.
So one Saturday, we're in that one of the Georgetown or DC stores, and a guy comes up with a Hoya, older gentleman with a Georgetown Hoya shirt on, and we obviously do what we do best and kind of just selling them on the product and having a good time. And he actually turned out to be one of the top lawyers in DC.
Oh wow.
Georgetown alum, loved the product. He ended up getting a group of at his firm and some other firms in DC, and they were our first angel capital for about $500,000. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, which really allowed us to become, some sort of a real business in the sense that we scaled our manufacturing from that hole in the wall where we were doing our own production. We partnered with some local DSD distributors and UNFI. And part of our plan was expansion into another regional retailer beyond Whole Foods. In Wegmans was actually 90 very high volume, high profile stores. So just like that, with that $500,000 raise, we went to the manufacturer that we're actually still in today, which is a Nestle manufacturer, one of the best at what they do. So it's
Nice.
a huge improvement.
Oh yeah.
Having distributors, which is a huge improvement in terms of time savings, and then another regional retailer. So we got back a lot of our time there, and improved the quality of the product. So what we did was, with that capital as well, a lot of it went towards inventory financing because the minimum runs were pretty high at that new plant. But we were able to hire 2 sales reps. And the goal remained the same: stay as the number 1 bottle of coffee at Whole Foods and become the number 1 bottle of coffee at Wegmans, which is 90 stores.
Nice. Yeah. There you go.
500K. So 2 sales reps, 3 brothers, do whatever we can do to be number 1 at Wegmans. And that's exactly what we did. In the first 90 days, we absolutely destroyed those stores. We had friends and family doing demos, pouring samples, because Wegmans is all over the Northeast too. It's not just the DMV. They have some stores in the DMV, but most of them are upstate New York. But thankfully, that's where we grew up. So we had a lot of friends up there and this is where our brand ambassador program kind of started.
Oh yeah.
We realized, like, look, we need to be doing demos every weekend. We need people merching the shelves. But Jimmy, Jake, and Jordan can't drive 10 hours to upstate New York every week. We were, but we couldn't do it every week. And thankfully, the manufacturer actually was based in Buffalo, so they were up there. So every time we went up there, we hit like 30 Wegmans ourselves. So the game plan has always been the same: is demos and displays. Like if you do a demo, you got to sell over 100 units, and you need to leave that store with a 50 case order to get a display somewhere. Like we made that, like that was the Bible, that was the code. And that's still true today.
Oh wow.
Much bigger expectations we're going for the 500 case displays and demos, but it worked. I mean, within that first year, we actually made up 40% of all bottled coffee sales at Wegmans.
Holy smokes.
So if you think about that, Starbucks was at like 20, 25%. So we that really put us on the map, that plan, that strategy, that execution. So we felt
Do you
like
feel like the demo, sorry, not to cut you off, but do you feel like the demo piece was that like the big unlock for you guys? 'Cause I mean, I followed you guys for a while. I do feel like you guys are like the kings of the demos.
yeah, for
Is
sure. The
yeah.
demos have been huge. Even today, I mean, we were doing before the pandemic, and that's why the pandemic has hurt us so much because our entire sales and marketing strategy is built around demos,
Yeah.
um, to a fault in a sense, which we're learning right now because we didn't have a savvy digital team. Like we're building our digital team right now,
Okay.
because of what's going on. So it'll help us in the long run. But when we were demoing, I mean, again, it's a sales and marketing machine at the point of purchase. It's like there's nothing that compares to that. In March we had uh, over 100,000 person-to-person sampling impressions this year,
Wow.
and that went to less than 100 very quickly. Like that went
Yeah.
away during the pandemic, but early on, again, like people in upstate New York, keto was just becoming a trend. They were looking for ways to live healthier diets, and we were the only product that tasted sweet and indulgent, that didn't have sugar, had protein. So by being differentiated enough, we were easily able to convert customers onto Super Coffee, and the repurchase rate was so high, and it still is super high, above 50%. So it was worth it. It was expensive, but it was so worth it because every other customer who tried it was coming back, not just once or twice. They were like lifelong customers. So they were driving our business. So we're still like, without demos and not a ton of support at Wegmans, obviously, as we've scaled, I mean, we're still their top bottled coffee brand, which is awesome.
That's phenomenal. That's such a wild story. I mean, so you guys went from, yeah, it sounds like so friends and family, then almost stumbled upon your first angel investor. Is that then shortly after that, or I guess when was the timing then of Shark Tank?
Yes. So same sort of deal with the friends and family is like, once we raised that first initial angel round, they had more people in their network. So we kind of continued to raise what we would still call seed rounds from angels, but just like high net worth angels,
Yeah.
obviously. And so we raised a couple $100,000 more dollars to continue what we were doing and proving out. So more regional retailers um, in the area, more distributors in the area to continue to raise it. But we realized, like, all right, we're doing great in the Mid Atlantic and Northeast, but how do we take this thing to become a national brand? Like, what are the steps we need to take? Our data is great. Like, so we're talking retailers are actually reaching out to us now from all over the country. So that's what prompted our decision to expand. Was the opportunity is there, but we didn't have the capital. We didn't have the team, so we needed the capital to expand and execute the same strategy. We wanted to do the same thing that we did that worked so well in every region of the country, which is a hard thing to do, and it takes a lot of money and a lot of people. So we were like, okay, we'll get ready to raise a Series A, which would be our first real, institutional money. It's going to be a 10 to 15 million dollar round.
Wow.
And when we were just starting to draw the plan out for that, we had a friend actually reach out to us who knew somebody at Shark Tank and said, hey, like, they're accepting applications. I think your story would be great if you guys want to submit. So we submitted it, and a few weeks later, they asked us, they said, we love your story. We'd love for you guys to do like a video and, second round of application process. So we were like, yeah, hell yeah, this is
Yeah.
great. And so we did that. And then again, just a few weeks later, they moved really quickly. They were like, look, we'd love to have you guys on season 9 of Shark Tank and tell your story and see what you can do. And we were like, okay, this is cool. Like, we didn't think we'd be able to raise our full Series A on Shark Tank, obviously,
Okay.
in
Yeah.
2017, actually, when we went on to film it. So it was really early on, still. So we asked for $1 million from the Sharks, for 10% stake. So we were valuing the company at 10 million at the time, which we thought was reasonable. I think we were on pace to do like 2 or 3 million that year in sales in 2017. So we thought that was pretty reasonable ask for year 2.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you saw the episode, but
I did.
basically,
Yeah.
Shark didn't like the product, and they thought the valuation was too high. And Rohan Oza, who's a big beverage guy, who's involved with Vitamin Water and Buy and Bulletproof, actually, and High Brew, some of our competitors, which we were worried about. We were like, this guy's, very publicly involved in these other coffee competitors.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a little interesting, but again, we thought that having 8 million people, we knew there was a risk going on the show too, but we thought having 8 million people view us, like, our goal was let's just come off as awesome, genuine, hardworking brothers who are trying to break through for the betterment of society with a healthy
Love
product.
it. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened. Even though we didn't get a deal, it was some negative feedback on the show, but like 8 million people, and we still get the reruns are still going right now. So we
I always
leverage
see
that.
it pop up online too, just like the clips of you
Oh,
guys
exactly.
ripping
So
the
we
shirts and
leverage
stuff.
that. Yeah, we leverage that for ads. But in stores, all of our retail marketing POS, like as seen on Shark Tank. So we leverage it at demos. People recognize the brand. So it was a huge turning point just in terms of brand awareness and excitement, where it
Right.
was you weren't just three kids, brothers who worked hard. We were like that brand that was on Shark Tank that's trying to challenge Starbucks. So that was a really cool turning point. So we filmed it in 2017, but that didn't air until February of 2018.
Oh,
So it was about 8 months. So by the time it
wow.
aired, actually, and this goes to show how quickly we wanted to evolve and how big evolution was for us. By the time it aired, we had a completely new reformulated product.
I was
New
gonna
re-
ask, it wasn't the brand it wasn't the same brand name on the bottle
No,
either, right?
exactly. It was completely different. Like everything was new. We went through a full brand refresh, all product formulations. We were getting ready to launch our super creamer, which was our first extension outside of just bottled coffee. Um, and when it aired, people started reaching out to us like, "Hey, are you guys still looking for money?" And we were again raising from angels, so we were well capitalized at that point, and we were planning for the Series A still. But one of the people who reached out directly to me on Instagram was Patrick Schwarzenegger,
That's awesome.
uh,
Yeah.
Arnold's son, and he ended up investing as an angel. Meaningful investment for us, but just having that.
Yeah, didn't he
Have,
just DM you on Instagram? Wasn't
yeah,
that the story I've seen?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just DM me on Instagram, and he's a year older than me, so he's Jake's age. We just hit it off, right? Like,
Yeah.
and
He seems
you
like a
know,
cool guy.
yeah, he's super cool and he's super entrepreneurial. Obviously an actor, and his family is absolutely amazing. So we built a really strong relationship, and some of his connections and relations have led to more investments, right? So kind of played that hand for a little bit in terms of raising more capital, and then as we were getting ready for 2019, we wanted to go from 4.5 million in sales in 2018 to 30 million in 2019, because this was the big expansion year, like where we
Yeah.
wanted to go from the East to the rest of the country. And we were really still excluding the West. We didn't really have plans to make it all the way to the West Coast, but we wanted to win in the Midwest, and we wanted to win in Texas, basically, and the Southeast. So that was the plan, was go from basically operating in two regions to 5 regions. So Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, Southeast, South Central, Midwest. Um, so we knew we needed 10 to $15 million to do that. We needed to hire another 30 people to do that, because now it's not just salespeople anymore. Now you have bigger finance team, bigger marketing team, sales operations team, to make sure the team has everything they need. So as you scale the sales team, obviously you need to scale the rest of the other departments, the admin functions in the business, to keep up.
Definitely. Yeah.
So it requires just more people, more dollars. So we ended up, Jim led the charge here, and it was our first time again, but we had a great story. The data was great. We were still a small brand, 4.5 million in sales. Still very, very small, like could easily go out of business any given minute. And there was a group of tech investors actually out in LA, pretty new venture capital group called Anthos Capital. And their founder, loved our product because he was just super health and wellness focused, and they were doing pretty well for a new fund, and they had just closed another fund, and they wanted to take the bet on us as their first food and beverage investment, actually outside of tech. So we ended up raising 14 million in that round to close the Series A going into 2019. I think we closed it actually like on Christmas Day of 2018. So like perfect
Wow.
time. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like money in the bank. Let's do this.
Right.
And we came out that year. We did exactly what we said we were going to do. We went from 15 full time to about 60 full time in the first 6 months of that year. So it was really ramping up.
That's a big ramp
And
up.
yeah, but we hit our revenue goal. We did about 26 million in sales that year. Um,
Wow.
so we were able to do that. And then obviously same exact story for 2020. was like, okay, now we're on a national stage. At the end of last year, we did start to expand into the West, but we need to continue to build the team, take it to the next level, go deeper now in every region. We've proved it can work in every region now. Now
Yeah.
we need to go deeper. We need to saturate. Like we need to really challenge some of these big brands. And we were a top 10 brand at the time, but I mentioned we're now number 3. So the strategy was working. It's just like now let's ramp it up, ramp up our spends. So our Series B was starting to we were still because we're still burning money at the time. We're not a profitable organization. So we looked at the model, we looked at our plan, what we wanted to achieve, and we thought we could grow 3 times again. So we wanted to go from 25 million to 90 million, so a little over 3 times.
Wow.
And we put the plan in place, the hiring plan, the strategy, and came out of the gates. So just on the Series B, we decided that we were going to raise it in Q1 of this year of 2020,
Right.
have it closed by Q2 and be ready to go, and that would give us the fuel we needed. But Q1 was a great quarter. We were coming out on plan, things were looking good, and then all of a sudden, the pandemic hit, and we were like, "Holy shit!" Like we're burning a lot of cash to hit this super aggressive plan, because it was an aggressive plan. Like we could have easily said, "Hey, we're going to double this year and just do 50 million and be, close to profitable."
Right.
But unfortunately, that's just not how we operate. It hurt us in this circumstance. We took a shot. I mean, like March was an awesome record-breaking month. Really incredible end to Q1, and based on previous years, we knew that Q2 was going to be about double what Q1 is, and Q3 would be double what that was. So we were there, like we were on track, and unfortunately, everything kind of just shut down. I mean, and I think sales missed plan in Q2 by about 35-40%.
Okay. Yep.
But at the same time, we had enough traction and footprint and we were handling the pandemic well. We didn't make any layoffs or furloughs at all.
Oh, awesome.
We committed to keeping the full team on board. We actually hired a few more people to make sure we weren't spread too thin.
That's great.
Around that time, we started talking to Anheuser-Busch a little bit more seriously as well about a distribution partnership, but also they wanted to invest in our round. But we were also talking to some other strategics as well who were really serious about getting involved. But the deal with AB made a lot of sense because they had just lost Bang Energy, was their number 1 non-alc brand. So if you think about the bandwidth of a large company like that, or any company, if they lose a big portion of their sales and their focus on non-alcoholic, they need to fill that void, and their sales team needs to make up for that.
Right.
So it was perfect timing for Super Coffee to sign. What we signed is a national master distribution agreement where we are their exclusive coffee. They participated a $5 million check in the round. We closed 28 million in Series B capital at a 228 million post-money valuation.
That's
in
fantastic.
The middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But,
Congratulations. That's just awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. So that gave us the obviously the boost we needed. But this year still, I mean, it's going to be a disappointing year for us, honestly. We're still dealing with, sales are still down, 20%. They're getting back on track, but still down. So instead of that ambitious, 90 million goal, we're going to come in around 70 million, but still being able to go from 26 to 70 through a pandemic, raise the Series B, partner with the Anheuser-Busch, keep the team on board, actually hire more. We'll be close to 100 people by the end of this quarter. We think it's still a win, even though it's not wanted to accomplish. It's kind of one of those things where, again, and this is greedy of me to say, but like it hurts the most of, man, if there wasn't a pandemic, what would we be? You know what I mean? Like if there wasn't a pandemic and we did all these things, like we could have beat our plan this year, our ambitious plan of 90 million. So that hurts. But again, like we got what we needed to survive, because we could have easily, just like any other business, had to shut our doors, had to lay off 50% of our staff and shut our doors. So it's been a whirlwind, man.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, it's been so much has happened in such a short amount of time. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the pandemic, the one thing I know we've learned is just you can't predict it, and it's just like trying to like put out fires. It's just like keep moving ahead, keep going forward, and to your point, it's like I think a lot of brands too are kind of like opening their eyes, like, oh shit, maybe we haven't done enough on the digital side or the e-commerce side.
Yep.
Is
Exactly.
that something that you guys like? Are you guys are on Amazon, right? You're on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So has that helped? Has like that been at least a positive side since the
Um,
COVID?
yeah, we made some big hires. We went out and kind of built that team up a little bit, and same on the creative team. Because marketing, again, I mentioned like we've only done field marketing to this
Yeah.
point. Our business, our online business, believe it or not, it's always been pretty strong, 15 to 20% of our sales
Oh,
actually.
wow. Yeah.
But the issue was we were always spending way more than we needed to get there. So the past few months, we wanted to keep revenue about even, about 15% of sales, but make it much more profitable, right? Make it much more profitable, much more efficient. And then the thought is really build out our digital marketing team, marketing in general, our marketing team. And then in 2021, we can really ramp that up once we have the foundation there.
Yeah.
So we've kind of been, investing a lot to drive sales, but now it's like, look, how can we get really tight, really smart, drive profitable growth, and then turn on the growth edge in 2021.
Got it. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Um, I guess the next thing I'll bounce into, I know we're coming up to an hour already, is you guys have come out with creamer. You just came out
Yeah.
with a plant-based product, which I thought was, I actually didn't even thought about you guys going into that space. I thought that was genius. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm definitely gonna get some.
Oh man, you gotta send some.
Yeah, I would definitely want to try it. Is what is like, and you don't have to share anything you can't share publicly,
Sure.
obviously, but like I'm sure you guys have a lot in the pipeline with COVID. Does that change anything, or what's the future of Super Coffee and the brand look like in your eyes?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think we're still small enough where we want to stay really focused on coffee, which I think is important. Um, so we launched pods as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's right.
and in right now we have seasonals coming out. So our maple pumpkin and our white chocolate peppermint, which
Your
are
peppermint last year, I had so many of those. Is that what you were
drink bottle.
drinking?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
new this
Oh,
just
is it
got.
the new one?
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's excellent. So those crushed it. Those were the number one and two seasonals in the country last year. So just that, but then in September actually we'll be launching, and this is obviously hopefully it doesn't make a big difference, but we're going into the ground bag category.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so pods have done so well for us.
That's awesome.
People love pods, and obviously our creamers too. You mentioned it's been a great, it's 25-30% of our business now. So it grew pretty quickly.
Wow.
Yeah, the creamer business is awesome, and people are now buying our pods with our creamers, but they're asking for grounds as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
uh,
Good problem
it's
to have.
yeah, it's an easy extension, and we're throwing a lot of vitamins, antioxidants, so it will have an immunity energy play, of course. So like you'll get a much better dose of caffeine, energy, focus, but also an immunity play as well, which is obviously a top ask and need right now for people. So that'll launch in September. So that'll be a big launch going into Q4, and then I mean we see us more so as a health and wellness platform as well. Again, we wanted to really align early in the coffee adjacencies where we felt like we could capitalize on. So, coffee, espresso, creamer, pods, grounds, like that's our family right now. But we think that we can expand beyond coffee. So we're just looking at those categories outside of coffee. What's the right category? Right? What's the right
Yeah,
first move?
sure.
How do you do that? When do you do that? What's the sales and distribution and marketing strategy behind that? So those are, a lot of the questions we're just digging into now, and we think by the second half of 21, we'll probably do something or get ready to do something outside of coffee. But you mentioned plant-based. Our coconut mocha product we launched is our number one SKU right now.
Oh,
It
wow,
has
really?
absolutely taken off. Yeah, it's our number one SKU in the portfolio online, in Target, nationwide. And then our creamer is also our number one creamer. So we're the only company. I mean, if you look at it, that's doing plant-based keto, great taste at a mainstream price. Like
Yeah.
there's nobody
No, there's no one else.
really. You have a lot of plant-based products, but they're loaded. Oat milk has been on fire. But to drink a 9-ounce latte of oat milk, you're putting 25 carbs into your body. So
Right.
it's customers still looking to live a keto-esque lifestyle, but going plant-based, but still tasting good. So I hope you love our products when the new ones when you try them, because they're my personal favorites too. I've been drinking a ton of them. So we'll expand on that line more too in 2021, just because those two SKUs have been so successful.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
We're going to do a full plant-based lineup on both coffee and creamer. And then again, toward the back half of the year, we'll probably start to explore some other categories where we think the brand can make an impact.
That's exciting. Yeah, that's awesome, Jordan. Do you guys have, I feel like you guys are on a rocket ship. You have a lot, all your products I've tried are fantastic. Everyone I've shared them with, and it was funny. We did a little product swap with RX, and we put them in the off. I literally put, you guys sent, I think it was like two or three cases of super coffee. And on the floor that I sat on, I put them in our fridge, and we used Slack. And I just messaged the whole company and said, like, hey, the guys at Super Coffee sent us a bunch of stuff. If you guys want to try it, check it out. And it was literally like a herd of elephants coming down the stairs and off the elevator. They were gone in 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes. It was funny. So everyone loves them at RX, and we're big fans.
Dude, yeah. No, we appreciate it. And again, I think the marketing machine will certainly turn on. Like one thing we've always prided ourselves on is quietly getting to where we are, right? Like
Sure.
quietly,
Oh, yeah.
$70 million company in 5 years. But the next year is really about how do we come off as bigger than we are? Like we want people to think we're $1 billion company by this time next year.
Got it. Yeah.
Obviously through our products, but just through the marketing machine that we haven't even invested or touched yet. So that's also part of the plan. And where a lot of the Series B capital is going to be going to as well. So like we have a great team in place. We don't see us needing to double our team again. But and if we really want to double our sales and get to close to 150 million in sales next year, it's going to come from getting that brand awareness up as distribution continues to grow. So it's an ambitious plan we got, and obviously every day right now is an uphill battle.
Sure.
But again, we think we're going to come out of this stronger than we came into it, and hopefully get ready for a big 2021.
Yeah, definitely. No, you guys sound like you're poised and ready to go. So I'm pumped to watch and see what you guys do. My last couple questions are like really not even finance related, but I love to ask everyone I have on here about this. The first one being, I think I've seen you specifically. I know all three of you, like you and your two brothers, post about this stuff. But if you had to suggest one book to the listeners today, do you have one off the top of your mind that you gift the most or talk about the most?
Yeah. Principles by Ray Dalio
Love it.
has been the number one for me. It's so practical, and it's so it applies to everybody. So I like that a lot.
Perfect. I love it. And then, so you're obviously, co-founder, started this company, got a lot of things going on all the time. Like you said, you've talked about a lot of it over the podcast today. Do you use any tools, whether that's apps, journaling? What do you use to like keep track of everything and like make progress? What tools and tricks do you use?
Yeah, so a trick that I've used personally is not really a tool, but just meditating for
Okay.
my personal mindset. That gets me going every morning. Try to get a workout and meditation in, and then in terms of tracking, I've created some internal tools that work best for my brain with everything going on, whether that be a spreadsheet or a Google document. Like leveraging the technology that's available, those things make it very easy to organize. You can create Gantt charts and whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I think it's super important to get everything that you have on your plate in one place, everything in one place, and then breaking that down by priority, biggest bucket. So I mentioned people and product being the most important thing for our business and what I focus on the most. So those things are always top of the list. The people issues, the product issues, the goals, always at the top. And again, start with your goals too. Like, what do you want to accomplish? What are you trying to achieve? And then what can't be sacrificed in order to get there? And then that'll fuel the rest of what you do. So your daily actions should align with those things. So if you have a very clear sense of what you want to accomplish and what your priorities are, that should basically direct everything else. And then you should know too, like, hey, here are the things that I can't, get to. And that's usually where the hiring, plan comes into play, like getting
Sure.
the right people in the right roles comes into play. But it's just like sometimes you're not going to be able to, I'll leave the house on a, Monday morning and be in meetings and, maybe travel for a field visit or something. I'll come back Tuesday night and I'll have 600 emails,
Oh, wow.
all new just from the past 48 hours. And I know I'm not going to be able to get to some of those, but
Yeah.
that's all right because the past 48 hours were spent on doing activities that were going to our biggest priorities and our biggest buckets. That's what's going to move the business forward. So get everything on one sheet, whether it be a Google Doc, spreadsheet, whatever it is, be able to see it, visualize it, and then prioritize those things accordingly to what you want to accomplish.
Love it. No, that's a great piece of advice. I appreciate it. And then really lastly, what's the best place to try Super Coffee? And then how can people get a hold of you or Super Coffee in general if they want to learn more?
Awesome. Yeah, the easiest way. Obviously, people are probably spread out across the country. I'm sure you can find it in your local regional retailer or national retailer. But drinksupercoffee.com, Amazon.com. You can buy all products on those platforms. Try drinksupercoffee.com. We usually do some deals for everybody, like first time buyers for sure, like 15-20% off. And then just reach out on the site, and if you have questions, and our team does an amazing job of passing them along to us. So honestly, if you reach out, it'll get to us pretty quickly, and we'll answer everything. So yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah,
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for taking the time. It was a pleasure getting to actually talk to you in person, and thanks for dealing with me changing the schedule a few times. So
yeah,
thank you.
dude.
It
I
was a
will.
pleasure talking to you and learning a lot more about Super Coffee and yourself, my friend.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. We got to do another product swap here
Yeah,
soon.
let's definitely do it. Always down. Always down for a good product swap.
Awesome. Cool, brother.
Awesome. Cool.
Sounds
Thanks, Jordan. We'll have a good one. I appreciate it.
You too, man.
All
Have a
right.
great weekend,
You
brother.
too. See ya.